Key ways to succeed as a rabbit camera out on the trail. What is a rabbit camera, or rabbit cam as it's known as? Well, it's basically you are out on the trail capturing a first-person POV, point of view, meaning that you are in the race running amongst the athletes. It is a perspective that is so unique because the audience actually feels like they are in the middle of the race. Now, because of the interesting nature of actually running with a camera, there are a lot of things that you have to keep in mind. So this is a top 10 list that I have put together after many years of running as a rabbit cam with NBC Sports, the Tough Mudder, Spartan Race, you name it. Adventure videography, first person POV is the name of the game, and I'm here to share with you some secrets and hints, tips, and tricks. Number one thing that you have to keep in mind is buttery smooth footage. You don't want to be running like this or you're gonna make the audience sick as if they're watching the Blair Witch Project. Now, of course, the ultimate buttery smooth footage would be derived from a drone, but you don't want a drone flying and buzzing among the athletes. You're gonna cut up someone's ear. So instead, you need a gimbal. Get some, they're pretty relatively well priced, anywhere from $100 to $250 on Amazon if you're running with a GoPro. If you're running with something heavier, well, first of all, go minimalist. You're probably gonna go really slow if it's anything heavier than an iPhone or a GoPro. Now you may be like, but Beau, high quality videography, this is where we're at, this is cinematic filmmaking. Nonsense, you can get outstanding footage from an iPhone 10, 12, 15, whatever number they're on at the viewing of this video. But point being, get buttery smooth footage and go with a gimbal. Run with a gimbal. Now, if in fact you're gonna be swimming, water obstacles, things of that nature, you're not gonna want a gimbal. And in that case, you're just gonna want to do a head mount. Now, head mounts aren't as smooth as holding a gimbal, but it's the next best thing that you can do to get that buttery smooth footage. Whatever you do, don't run with a camera. I saw this one guy running with a camera on a, sort of looked like an antenna on his backpack, and it was just wagging like this. And I was just picturing the footage looking like this the entire time, which is horrible. Also, don't do a chest mount. Don't do handheld if at all possible, unless you're used to videography and running extremely smoothly with your hands stabilized as the rest of your body is running. So it really takes a fine touch in order to run, even with a gimbal. Oh, and also with that being said, run with the gimbal like a lightsaber. Don't run with it up and down like this. A lightsaber, and that will achieve the smoothest possible footage when you're running with a gimbal. A lightsaber. Second thing you need to keep in mind as a rabbit camera, dress for success. Now you're gonna be tempted to be out there with your shirt off and you're gonna be looking great along with all of the other racers, but let's be honest, you're gonna be out there all day long. You're not there just for one race. You might even run the course 1 or 2 times, and if in fact you get down to number 10, or rather, number 10, secret, you're gonna wanna run the race yourself. I know, there's logic to that. But anyway, dress for success. Cover your elbows, cover your knees, put some sunscreen on. Of course, you're not gonna wear a giant floppy sunbonnet as you're running out there. You're gonna look ridiculous, and that's gonna be a lot of drag. But point being, I see a lot of people not really dressed well, and they're taking their shirt off and they're looking all fancy with their ripply abs and pulsing pecs. But they're not gonna last very long if they're out there all day. So wear compression tights. Wear preferably a shirt. If they give you a staff shirt, do that in order to give you some kind of authority. If you don't have this, wear something with no logo so you're as generic as possible. So if in fact you do stumble into the footage, it's not like, hey, this rabbit cam is sponsored in part by Nike, and Nike is not a sponsor of the event. That's kind of awkward, and then they can't use your footage because you bombed it, or they fuzz it out. Anyway, dress for success. Now this is somewhat unique to me, but for number 3, I would say cheer on the athletes. Some people say, no, you don't want to have anything to do with the athletes. I've actually built some great relationships with these elite athletes throughout the years because I run with them. And now granted, I can't give them an unfair advantage. Like I can't say, hey, the second place just dropped out because they've got cramps in their legs. I can't tell them things like that. Or I can't be like, hey, duck under this tape in order to skip the course. Obviously, I'm not gonna tell them how to cheat. However, I am gonna cheer them on. And I'm gonna say, hey, how you feeling right now? And if they wanna talk, they'll talk. And sometimes, some athletes have told me they actually appreciate a little distraction. And they're like, hey, thanks for running with me. And it's kind of a cool rapport that you're building. And the reason why I do this is that because I am taking footage of them. And honestly, it's the least that I can ask to, well, cheer them on. And I'm not, out there to exploit them and make them look bad, but I'm actually in the race with them, so to speak, and they're giving me incredible, incredible footage. So the last thing you want to do is build animosity between you and the athletes. You're probably gonna stumble into them in some obstacles, or you're running along some single track with them and they might shout at you, get out of the way! And you just apologize. That's the nature of being a rabbit cam, is you are in the race itself. But you can't be a complete fly on the wall. You will be bumping into them here and there, and so the best thing to do is to build a good rapport with them, and one of the best ways to do that is to just cheer them on and be a real person out there. Go minimalist. I see a lot of videographers out there who are running on the trail with a giant backpack and they can't run for very far. The name of the game is keeping up with the athletes, and in order to do that, you're gonna have to run very, very simply. Now earlier I was mentioning, you're putting on some compression tights and a long shirt, things like that. Why am I doing that? I thought you said go minimalist just now. Well, what I mean by minimalist is, don't carry along a giant rig. Don't think that you need to carry water with you. There's gonna be water stations along the way, odds are, in this type of adventure race. Now there are some adventure races where you're out for a week at a time, and in that case, you're still gonna have to pack really, really smartly, because you are basically running the same speed as the athletes, including their equipment, plus camera equipment. So you are being pretty hardcore right now, and it's gonna take a special mindset to be very strategic with what you pack. Don't go crazy. Now yes, do carry extra SD cards, do carry extra batteries. In some cases I carry an extra camera if it's light enough, just a little extra GoPro camera. Pack it all into a Ziploc bag, sometimes two, especially if you're gonna be submerged or swimming through water obstacles. And just put it in a little runner's belt. It's a very thin belt that goes around your waist. It doesn't flop around very much and you pretty much forget about it. Also, I would recommend bringing a little chamois microcloth just in the event that you really get some gunk on your camera. And I try to keep my camera lens as clean as possible, usually every minute or two. I'm trying to wipe it off on my shirt, and if push comes to shove, I can just unzip my runner's belt, pull up the chamois cloth, and really do a number on the lens to clean it very well. Because after all, that's why you're there, to get good footage. And if halfway through the race you realize that there's been a blob of dirt on your camera for the last 50 minutes, wow, that's gonna really be lame. So keep your camera clean, and the best way to do that is to pack some extra things. Train, 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 train. This is number 5. Train for this event. Don't just be like, whatever, I'm just gonna be a videographer out there, a fly on the wall, not doing anything. No, 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 no. You are going to be running, if not harder than the athletes. Sure, you're able to skip some obstacles as they're crawling under the barbed wire, but when push comes to shove, you are in fact running the entire race, not once, not twice, but probably upwards of 3 times, depending on if there's a women's heat and a men's heat. So you're gonna have to work out, and if you want to do this in long term, you're gonna want to treat your body well. The easiest way to get an injury is not to train for this. So train for this. This is hard work, being a rabbit cam. There are some races where you are live streaming your stream. So let's say, for example, I'm carrying an iPhone, it's connected to BeauCh, and they're taking that feed and chopping it together maybe with other rabbit cameras, or maybe it's just you. So it is absolutely imperative that you are communicating with BeauCh. because if your feed cuts out and goes dead, they're gonna have to contact you somehow. So the downside to live streaming is I would recommend carrying a radio. Usually they're pretty darn heavy and you don't want that extra weight. So normally I would say don't carry a radio, be streamlined, minimalist, minimalist, minimalist. However, it is imperative that you communicate with BeauCh. So if you are live streaming or if you have some equipment that you're carrying along with you, or you're out for days on end, be sure you have a radio or very solid cell phone connection. Be smart with communication. Number 7, your footage will only be as good as you know the course. Let me repeat that. Your footage will only be as good as well as you know the course. That being said, you're probably gonna be showing up the day before to quickly get a rundown on the course. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend actually running, jogging, walking the entire course. Yes, some of these obstacle courses can be upwards of 15 miles. Sometimes it's a full marathon, but build into the day before to actually go out and walk the course. Because once you know the course, then you're able to skip certain sections. Let's say in fact you miss the leader and he just pulls out in front of you because these people are amazing athletes. You're gonna wanna know where to cut a corner to hop under the tape and pick them up again. So get to know the course, bring a map along with you, make lots of notes. Your footage is just as good as you know the course. Number 8, this might seem like a no duh, but you won't believe how many times I forgot this. Bring garbage bags in your luggage because you're gonna be so dirty. You're not gonna have time to hose out your shoes and things like that, but bring copious amounts of garbage bags. Throw your muddy clothes in there so you can hop on the plane and get on back home. Fun little pro tip. Try to shower before you get on the plane. I know a lot of these places have just hoses and stuff, you hose yourself down. But it is very, very nice to actually hop on a plane without mud in your eyes and your ears, and plus it's a little weird and awkward when you're sitting next to someone and you don't smell very good. A lot of this mud is yucky, especially if you're running in a equestrian center. Ooh, lots of poop in the mud. So be sure to, well, find a trucker place nearby or a public pool and get showered up. As a professional rabbit camera, professional means you're getting paid because you're providing something of value. Now a lot of people say, hey, I'll just do this for free if it means free admission. I mean, it's so much fun, but guys, you're putting your body on the line. So yes, negotiate and ask to be compensated fairly. And when people say, well, how much do you charge? I hate to say it depends, but it does depend. I could be out for a week out in the middle of nowhere using my own equipment, or I could just be somewhere for less than 24 hours. They're providing all the equipment and it's a super, super cush gig. So it really does depend, but do keep in mind that they're not just paying your salary, but they're paying your food and all these other extraneous expenses that stack up. And so be reasonable, yes, negotiate, but don't push too hard because yeah, they have a budget and they might have some really good food for you, but don't think that that means that the budget, the producers and directors are just swimming in it. They gotta cut costs somewhere. So yeah, just be polite basically and they will treat you well. Now this is kind of bizarre and it's probably gonna distinguish me from a lot of rabbit cameras out there, but I would highly recommend that you actually run the race. I mean, when all is said and done, when you are done filming, you turn in your footage, or maybe they're copy and pasting your footage from your SD card right then and there. Just be like, hey, I'm gonna go out for a couple hours and run the race. Ask some other people to go with you too, because it's kind of lame when you run things by yourself. But when you're doing it with other people, it is so much fun. And I say this because I don't want you to lose the magic of these races. They're so much fun to do. Now obviously you can't maybe do a full adventure race, especially if you're going out for a week or two at a time, but do some major sections of the course or just go out on a really long jog just to appreciate the essence, the energy, and sometimes the atmosphere is just so much fun. And you know, the more you do any kind of work, whether it's, you know, climbing a mountain or skydiving or paragliding, you will build some form of cynicism towards that industry. And what I mean is this, is that the more you're in an industry and the more you become an expert at it, the more you notice little things that bother you because you've been doing it for so long. And you kind of have your way, your formula that you just plug things into and you just comfortably get things done. But I would encourage you not to be comfortable. And the best way to do that is to keep throwing yourself curveballs and go out and actually run the course yourself. So don't lose the magic. Yes, you're providing a valuable skill and you're probably getting paid for this, but when push comes to shove, you're doing it because it's an adventure, and that is adventure videography. Hopefully these hints, tips, tricks on being a rabbit cam helps you go out and film an adventure race yourself. My name is BeauCh. Contact info is nearby somewhere on this page, and I look forward to seeing you out in the events, in the races, in the fields, in the mountains, wherever cameras take us.